Hi, I'm Eagle Spitz, and in conversation with Erin Incoherent. Hello, Erin.
How are you doing, Eagle? Nice to see you again virtually.
Yeah. So you've had your album out a couple of years now, I think. Deja Vu.
Deja Vu. Yeah, well, this November will be the 2-year anniversary of its release.
Because I think our interview last time I interviewed you, it was just coming out.
Yeah, I was still living in New Jersey at the studio. We were, I think, just a couple months from us wrapping recording. It took us a couple months from recording wrap, to mix and master, get it ready to be distributed online, getting it on all the distro and getting physical merch and stuff made. So yeah, we just decided on November 2020. I think it was November 29th. I think it was like the last day or 30th or something. But yeah.
Well, I for one loved it. People can read about that in Fungal Punk. Just Google Fungal Punk, Erin Incoherent, and there's be a review of Deja Vu there for you. But how's it been received? I've read a couple of really positive reviews about it.
Yeah, so we had kind of like, I reached out to some people who had written about Medusa, which was the release I did right before Deja Vu, a couple years before, and asked them if they would, preview the new album and if they wanted to write about it. I was living in New Jersey at the House of Robot when I made the album, and then after we were kind of wrapping it up, instead of moving back into Philadelphia in the middle of the pandemic with the riots, I didn't have a job. I didn't have any income. I'd just been living at my friend's house making the album. So I decided to go back to Colorado, which is where I'm from originally, and live with my brother and just kind of be around home in places that were familiar, like while I was releasing the album, because in the climate of the pandemic, I wasn't like, my idea was to like tour it, but that wasn't feasible, or it wasn't an option at the time. All the venues and everything were closed down and people really weren't, there wasn't a vaccine. So then I went and in addition to hitting up people who had previously written about me on the East Coast, I got in touch with like local newspapers in Colorado. I was just trying to build the buzz around it. When it released, everyone who has listened to it has told me that they really like it. It set the bar higher for where my music was at, I think, which is something I try to do with every release, is to, exceed the expectations of what I previously set for myself and make myself happy. This was the first album that I really produced from start to finish. And so toward the end of it, I was like, I don't even know if I like the music. It's like I couldn't hear it anymore. I could only hear how many things we tried to change. And like, it was, now listening to it 2 years later, I feel like, no, I hear what everybody was talking about when, they said that it stirred them. I think that I've been blessed to have a very supportive group of people following my music, and they like what it has to say. So sometimes I feel like, well, they're just being nice, or these are just my friends. But then I realized that like that is a blessing. These are my friends. My music has made me a lot of people who want to continue showing support.
Yeah. That's how we met, through your music, which was great.
Yeah, and the pandemic of all things too brought us together. So I have, there was a lot of silver linings with coronavirus.
Yeah, and of course, since then you've put on, you've not only did an online gig all day for us a few months ago, you did a Girls Are Loud actual physical gig for us, didn't you? You put together. So I see the videos. That was awesome. How was it from your perspective?
It was fun. It was a lot of moving parts. So we had originally wanted to do the Girls Are Loud show in November of 2021. So kind of like a year later, there's this venue in Philadelphia called Dobbs. And this is a place that holds or back in the day held a claim because, bands like Green Day and Nirvana played there. It's just like one of those clubs that a lot of people went to. And so the reopening of the club was getting a lot of people excited. And then I was able to get Girls Are Loud booked for a November date, but it got pushed back. The opening of the venue got pushed back because at that point there were coronavirus limitations. And then I think they had something with liquor law or licensing. So instead of doing it that November, we ended up moving it to March because I told them I want to wait until the venue opens and then we can set another date because I don't want to have to push this back. And the first time we had it booked, we had a couple of bands drop after we lost the date, so I didn't want that to happen again. But when we booked it back in March, it was the 26th, so just a couple weeks ago. We had Nikki Nailbaum and the Amorphous Blob Orchestra, and Nikki did, you know, obviously a few shows for y'all. I think Nikki's played every show that I played for Girls Are Loud as well.
Oh, she's great, isn't she?
So phenomenal, and she's gonna be on Pooza Fest. She's just like an incredible soul, so she's a very nice person.
And, yeah, the band are great as well, aren't they? They are, yeah, different.
Yeah, they're like ska. They have like some horns, and they do like Nikki and you know, the two lead singers' vocals just match melodies or like different octaves. It's really haunting and spooky. So we had Amorphous Blob Orchestra with Nikki Nailbaum. We had Emo Space Bird, who's like this psychedelic soul funk artist from Philly, and she's tearing it up. We had The Galaxy Has Eyes, which are kind of a I think they're in like Delaware. They're kind of like in the suburbs of Philadelphia, but they tore it up. It's like, it reminded me of like kind of late 70s, early 80s. Not like I was alive for this stuff, but just like the kind of bands that were coming out of the area. Like you had like, I don't know, Wendy O. Williams vibes. It was just very like in your face, artistic. And we had Vixen as well. Huh?
I had a friend message me, Tim Forster, and he said he absolutely loved those guys. He was blown away by them.
I was too. That was my first time seeing them. I had heard, you know, I saw their names popping up on all these different flyers, and I heard nothing but good things. But they just, yeah, they blew it out of the water. Totally knocked me back, you know, in my chair or whatever it was. And then the last thing we have was Vixen 77, which is like the all-female punk band of Philly, and they also had a hiatus because they replaced their drummer and their singer. So they were just like getting new material, getting their new members like uptight, ready to practice. And then they've been also in the studio too. So you had all of these incredibly talented, different musical groups of people with like non-binary, with women members who wanted to come and be a part of this. Because I told them at the beginning, you know, like, you guys, you're not going to get paid. It's the money's for Hope Orphanage. And no problems with anybody. And when the day of is kind of when we approached everybody and said, hey, we're actually going to be live streaming this as well, our homies and punks for the homeless, these, you know, like explaining about y'all's charity and how it's connected with Hope Orphanage. Everyone was ready to go. They were really excited about it. You know, they were excited to get on their pages and share it. And it just like, it was a cool show. Like the show was a really awesome experience to be a part of physically, just like being in attendance at the show. But for me, it was a very special show too, because I felt this community that cares about Hope Orphanage and that wants to be associated with Punks for the Homeless. I felt it grow. You know, I felt more people get involved in it. And like, we opened the show with playing a past performance of the girls dancing for, I think we had it for like 15 minutes beforehand. We had projector issues up until then, but it was really touching. You know, I got to introduce like, this is Hope Orphanage, this is the girls, this is where all the money's going toward it. And like, you just felt the community there, you know? And like, so thank you guys too for what you do, because Punks for the Homeless, like you guys created that, helped make it possible, you know?
Well, thank you. We solidarity, do it together. Yeah, so I noticed I was just skirting through some of your past reviews, actually, sort of to pick up on what people are talking. But what didn't realise is how many albums you've actually brought out. You've brought out several albums, haven't you?
Yeah. So there's Deja Vu was the last one. We had Medusa a couple years before that, and then Miss Shitsky before that. So I was signed to a label for a couple of years called Die Laughing Records, and they're out of California. Excuse me. I released Miss Shitsky when I was signed to them. Before that, I had this kind of, it was like my demo. I think it was like 5 to 8 tracks called Ha Ha Ha. And that, like, I have one of those kind of in my memory bag of like my old merch, but pretty much the only physical things you can get from me these days are Medusa or Deja Vu. I've even sold out of all my Miss Shitsky. And I wouldn't know how to go about reprinting them at this point because it was the old label that had all that stuff. So
There'll be collector's items at some point through eBay. So did you bring Medusa out on vinyl, or was it just CD?
Medusa is also, so Medusa is just on CD. Deja Vu is on vinyl. That's the only album of mine that's on vinyl.
That's a beautiful thing as well. Whose idea was it to get in the pond?
Mine.
That's...
Yeah, me and Bill know. So if anybody's watching this and doesn't know me, I'm a florist as well. So anything flowers, it's like a lot of my art has flowers in it because of that. I just love flowers. And I was working with Bill Nobes. The cover for Deja Vu was already done. Actually, it was one of the first things I got done was the album artwork. And it was my friend, he drew this beautiful like passion flower with me like as a skull. Like it was a beautiful piece of art. But toward the end of filming, Bill Nobes, who's the producer at House of Robot, Bill Nobes and I were walking toward this place that he had been to a handful of times in New Jersey. It was just like this beautiful kind of, there's blueberries and pine barrens and this beautiful lake. And when we went there that day, there was thousands of water lilies of lotus in bloom on the lake. And like, I get chills thinking about it. And Bill's looking at it. He's like, I've never seen this before. I've never seen the water blossoms here. And I'm freaking out because I've never seen lotus in real life and I've never seen this many lotus. And I was like, dude, Bill, we have to come back here. We have to jump in the water. We have to take a pit. Like I saw that image, like the image that became the Deja Vu album. Like I saw it in my mind when we looked up at the water. And so we're like, we have to come back. And I wanted it to look like I was rising up out of the water, like, you know, standing up. In reality, the water's like this deep. Right. I'm literally like trying to make it look like I'm coming up out of it. It was crazy. And then Bill's like up to his knees, holding a camera in one hand and then like a sun reflector in the other, trying to get the right. It was crazy. That was so much fun. It worked
really well. It's a brilliant cover. I love it. And hopefully our friend Alex will put a picture of that album cover up so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Get more pictures from that session. That was a good session.
So you're going to be doing a session for us today.
Yeah, that so y'all see a little outfit change in me too. So I pre-recorded it because of working, but I am excited. I've been doing some more work with, like we were talking about writing. So it took me a couple of years to go from being able to write lyrics to writing poetry. Because when I started to try to write poetry, I would do it lyrically, which like would say I would try to come back to like a chorus, you know, I would try to make it almost like rhythmic instead of like allowing poetry to be its own story. And so kind of like continuing to pursue poetry has influenced my musical writing. A lot of the newer stuff I'm writing is more poetic, whereas like the melody is the same, the lyrics never repeat. It's like one like long poem. Okay, so yeah, you'll hear a couple of those songs today. And then in between some songs too, I started a couple shows ago, just kind of like Patti Smith, just saying my poetry as well in between songs. So I did that for this session too that y'all will watch today. Y'all will be able to hear some of the poetry I've been doing at shows, as well as some of the new stuff. I play a few songs from Deja Vu as well. And I think that's the oldest it gets though. I don't think there's any Medusa in this set.
We can't expect cheerleaders smoke cracks on you.
Ooh, not on this one, but you can still find that at a show. I just played that last Monday, actually. My friend requested it. I need to get it back in rotation. That's a good song.
But I know what you mean about the poetry and songwriting, because I think I started out as a poet first, but a lot of my poetry ends up turned into songs anyway.
Okay.
But then I've always written as a performance poet.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was 14, I've got a few punk rock heroes who are poets. So I thought, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to do this. So I'd actually written from a very early age to perform stuff. But it wasn't until about 10 years ago I did my first ever poetry set.
No shit. How'd it go?
Yeah, well, first it was at a punk all-day gig in London. And first 10 minutes I froze.
Oh no!
But I picked up and the set went down well, and I haven't froze since. So I think I got all my nerves out of the first one.
I can take it, man. That's awesome.
But yeah, because I'm going to know quite a few young poets, so I tried to tell that story to them as well, because they feel nervous. Well, you all feel nervous, mate. Just because some of us have been doing it for a while or random, we all feel nervous.
Right.
And that's a natural part. I think often if you don't feel nervous, and it's because you don't really care.
Right.
You get blasé about things.
Right. Or like, yeah, sometimes because I want, like, I'm okay with feeling nervous, but I don't want the nerves to consume me. You know, I want the nerves to turn into excitement.
Mm. Yeah, for a long time in bands, I would never. I always wanted to perform first because make sure I hadn't had a drink, because I liked that nervousness, being able to turn it more edgy.
Right. Yeah, like that was well, and I feel like as an acoustic artist, because I'll be on a punk rock bill, or I'll be on a full electric bill as an acoustic artist, and I'll be able to hold my own. And that comes from, like, you gotta, like what you're saying, hit the crowd, know what you're saying, you know, like feel your words, and not be. It's okay for the movement to change, and I'm finding more comfort in realizing that, like, if I am drawing people into this kind of vulnerable place with my words or with my music, you can capitalize that and, like, dissolve some of that for people. Music can be healing, but when I get so in my head about whether or not I'm doing things correctly, I'm not connecting with my music. You know, I'm connecting with my fears and with that worry. So yeah, nerves are fine, and they are a part of it. Everybody does feel nerves, but it's the art that I'm trying to really connect to, you know, or keep the audience connected to too.
Right, I want to talk about somebody totally different now.
All right.
We've got highly recommended by yourself, Black Guy Fawkes playing live for us. So online. Yes. So would you like to tell us a little bit about Black Guy Fawkes?
So this is another person that I met virtually and because of coronavirus. So I'm in Colorado, and my friend Pretty Boy in Philadelphia starts this Rubbish Records company to help book shows, to help, you know, just like dissolve some of the gatekeeping that's kind of begun to really exist and embed itself in our culture, where like bands kind of keep people out of different venues or places, or like just trying to open up this all bands at all shows. You know what happens when we get everybody out of our comfort zones, because we have like hip hop next to ska music, next to folk punk, next to, you know, deathcore or whatever. And so the whole world's closed down. Ed's getting all this rubbish stuff taken care of, and there's this other group called the Age of the State, who are a really well-known folk punk band, and they do a lot of awesome work for people in their community. And they see this opportunity with the world closing down to start doing these live stream concerts and they called the whole series Coping with Dystopia. And it began as, or it was kind of always rooted in mostly folk punk artists. And every week they would host a show. So it'd be like that Friday would be the show. And all of the money raised during the live stream events would be given to a different charity. And I'm not sure if Punks for the Homeless was ever one of the charities. I got one of the harm reduction groups that I know people in to be like the recipients of one of the what donations were raised for. But these weekly live stream events, Pretty Boy began getting involved with them. And they started letting Pretty Boy help curate or book artists for these live streams. And Pretty Boy ended up booking Black Guy Fawkes. Either it was on the same live stream as me or sometime within that. And he sent me Black Guy Fawkes' profile. And so we became Facebook friends. We started talking online. And then after, it was like 2021, you know, when that summer, a lot of places were just starting to host big outside events to keep people like socially distanced or outside so it's safer. Pretty Boy started hosting these Rubbish Record shows at Grace Ferry Skate Park. And he would bring in larger folk punk acts from kind of like the tri-state area. And Black Guy Fawkes is from Cumberland, Maryland, which is just, I think, like 4.5 hours from Philly. And so he paid Black Guy Fawkes to come through, paid me to come through from Colorado and play this July 3rd show at Grace Ferry Skate Park. And that was like the first time that I had met Black Guy Fawkes in person. And we got to share the stage together that day. We got to hang out like that kind of week, and really help solidify like our friendship and being able to follow up with where he's been in his journey since. Like, I don't want to put too many words in his mouth. I wanted to tell everybody his own story, but he's a great guy. He does a lot of social justice work, and advocacy works, like outside of just racial justice, things that help make women feel more comfortable, things that make the LGBT community feel more seen and heard. He's a good person to have in your corner, and he's an incredibly talented musician. I got to see him with Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses at Milk Boy in Philadelphia last month as well. And it was like the end of a month-long tour that he was on, and he nailed it. And, you know, like the Philly homies were there too. So it was like this sense of family. I'm proud of him where he's going. I'm grateful again that you guys are helping him out and getting him on your show too, or kind of with this Pump for the Homeless community.
Well, it's all one big family as far as we're concerned.
I feel it. I appreciate it.
Good. Right. Any last words? I'm not going to kill you, don't worry. But any last words?
I guess just keep doing what makes you feel connected to the self that you love. I think a lot of times people can get caught up doing things they feel like they need to do for other people or other circumstances. And so I'm going to leave people with the words and the thoughts to just do what makes you feel like the you that you're in love with, you know? Give that person agency to grow this season and beyond.
Excellent. And that's good advice for everybody. So I'll say goodbye to Erin. I'll say goodbye to everybody else. Bye, Erin. Bye, everybody else.
Bye, homeless.
I watched myself burn out on the wrong side of the tracks. I hitched a ride back, then watched myself fall off the wagon. It's no use of trying to hide in plain sight. This weight in my heart makes me try suicide.